What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Talkin Wellness, presented by South Florida Wellness Network. My name is Christian.
It's your boy, Michael. How we doing, guys?
It's your girl, Kayla.
And welcome back to another episode of this series that we've been doing that I'm so in love with, My Story Matters, where we talk with amazing people out here in Broward County to share their stories and to share their recovery journeys and how they were able to utilize their experience to grow and become the people that they are today. And today we bring one of my favorite people on earth, and I say that loudly and proudly, Mr. Scott right here.
Hey, Scott.
So,
Thank you.
It's muted, so
Yeah.
we had to prepare for that. But Scott, how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing good. I the minute I got the text from you was absolutely yes, without a doubt. No matter what I'm doing,
so
I'm dropping
thankful.
it to come here.
Thank you.
Because I love the mission and the people here at South Florida Wellness.
Thank you so much.
Incredible people.
Yeah, and we love you. You do a specific training and you've given it to some of us, and it's arguably one of my favorite trainings that I've been a part of. So I'm like I said, I'm over the moon that he's here. Okay, guys. But the reason why I'm so excited for you to be here is because based on those trainings and those conversations that I've been able to have with you, you have an incredible story filled with a lot of things that happen, some things that you're proud of, some things that you're not proud of course. But ultimately, you're a recovery warrior. You're a person who utilizes their recovery not only for yourself, but you spread it to other people to inspire other people to recover as well. And that's why I really wanted to open up this space and this conversation to just talk to you a little bit about your story and how people can maybe mimic a little bit of your recovery journey to try to get well as well. You know, maybe some of the resources that you use and some of the connections that you made, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess we can start from ground zero. Where we love to, whenever we do My Story Matters, where we start with the same idea. We want to get into the before the recovery, the moment you notice that things needed to change, and the afterwards, which is the actual recovery process where you are today. Okay. So we would love to hear a little bit about the before, the moment happened when you realized something needed to change.
Well, you know, my story is a little bit different as far as, because I've got the before recovery, then I've got recovery, then I've got after recovery, then I've got before recovery again, then recovery.
Yeah. Because recovery is nonlinear.
Exactly.
You know, my first stint in recovery came when I was very young. I was 15 years old, and I came into recovery because I grew up in a household where alcohol and drugs were a standard. Everybody did them. And so by the time I was like 8 and 9 years old, I was trying to sneak drinks and do things. And I was the guy who, as soon as I put alcohol in my body, it changed my brain chemistry. It changed how I felt. And it was like,
Were you aware of that change in the
moment?
moment?
I was, because as soon as I drank, I remember, maybe not the very first time, but right at the very beginning, I was drinking some blackberry brandy, and there was only about that much left in the bottle, very little bit, an inch left in the bottle. And I took a little bit of it, and I sat there, and for the first time in my life, I felt complete. I'd always spent my whole life. I'd always been on stage and singing and doing things, but I was always trying to impress people because I never felt good about me. But as soon as I put alcohol in my body, I realized I felt complete. And it turns out that was a part of a dopamine deficiency, which we're not going to get into all that. We're not going to get into all that.
Interesting.
But I started, so I found recovery early because my mom, you know, she was so great because she was a drunk and an addict. And it was awesome. And then she decided to get sober, which meant now I got to get sober too.
Right, of course.
So my first time in recovery was just more like a kid got in trouble and I decided to stay out of trouble. Okay. And I went to meetings. I believe in the 12-step programs, and I do that. But I believe in every other program out there, whatever works for anybody.
So you started going to programs at a young?
Yeah,
like
15.
Oh,
I was the AA wonder kid.
Wow.
I was at conferences. I was doing all that. I was the guy, by the time I was 16, 17 years old, I figured out the real best secret of it. I was the greeter at every meeting I went to because at one point a nice-looking girl was going to walk through the door.
You were a smart kid.
there were guys crawling through the door. I ignored them. But the young girls coming through, hey, let me get you some coffee. I got a big book for you. Let me show you what we're doing here.
As greeters, you're supposed to give hugs. Hi, I'm Scott.
I know it's so crazy because we all do this.
Yeah.
I know this is probably your first time, but by the way, you need to give me your phone number. That's what it is, okay?
It's
completely normal.
It's how it works. I carried a trunk full of big books in my
Nice.
car. Or if I was riding my motorcycle, I had my saddlebags full of big books, and it was. I mean, I was like asking, hey, "You want some candy, little girl?" You know,
here's a big book. I put my number on the front page.
And then I grew up a little bit, and I said, well, I got to start marrying some of them. And I started doing that. And that didn't work out very well. Bottom line is I did that for 12 years.
Okay.
And it was simply just a matter of a kid having fun. I didn't understand addiction. I still believed addiction was something outside of me that was trying to attack me. You know, the old thing, my addiction's out in the parking lot doing push-ups. Yeah, every time somebody said that, I'd run outside looking for Schwarzenegger out there doing, but no, there's nobody out there.
Yeah.
Because addiction and alcoholism is who I am.
Yeah.
It's not something I caught on a toilet seat from Grand Central Station. It's what I am. So, but I didn't know that at the time. And after 12 years of doing that, I relapsed. I was married at the time. I had a baby on the way, and there was a lot going on, and I relapsed. And that relapse was not acute relapse. That was a 10-year relapse. And in that 10 years, that's when my real story happened. Yeah. Because I thought I was invincible. I'm like, oh, I'm the AA wonder kid, you know? How a head full of AA and a belly full of beer, I'm good to go. I'm all set. No, I'll tell you, the first maybe 2-3 hours was great. After that, it went downhill. Yeah. It really started going downhill. Violence on my part. I became a very violent man towards my wife, my friends, strangers. Paranoia, thievery, lying, just the whole 9 yards, cheating. You know, if you knew me and you trusted me for 5 minutes, I'd find a way to steal money from you. You know, and I started doing that stuff, and then I ended up going to jail. Okay. You know, for getting in fights or for hurting my wife. You know, I understand it's not a popular thing to talk about, but it's a truth about addiction. I became a violent man. Yeah. And then when my kids started to grow, I started to hit them too. Okay. And I almost lost my kids to the state permanently. Just a lot of things went on. I was doing a TV and radio career at the time when I relapsed. And so now I'm established in TV and radio, and now I'm showing up drunk every day. Wow. And I'm trying to film TV commercials and talk shows drunk, and I'm tripping over people's names. And I remember the worst one was I was at Lincoln Falls Family Fun Center. I could hardly say that sober. Think about saying that drunk. 42 takes for me to do the opening shot.
Wow.
Yeah. But nobody else wanted my job, so I was safe.
Right. So you weren't like living a double life. It was like everything bleeded into.
No, everything bleeded in. I thought, you know, I could keep things separate. I thought I could still do a good job, and I could be a good father and I couldn't do any of those things. And at the end, I became everything I hated. I became everything I hated. And I had a heart attack before I was 30 from the drinking. It just so much went on until finally, and that's all I want to talk about Drunken Log. If we want to talk about it every time I got arrested and the violence, we could talk about that some other time. But what's more important is what happened was I got arrested for a DWI, not my first one.
And that's different from a DUI.
I think that's what it's called now.
That's what it's called now?
It's a DWI, driving while intoxicated is what they called it.
Okay.
DUI is the same thing.
Okay.
You know,
I just want to make sure that I'm not getting different titles here.
My wife used to say, I could get a DWI every time. I'm driving with an idiot.
That's funny.
But I had a couple of suicide attempts, and a few times when I just tried to hurt myself. And I was at the end of my rope, and I spent the whole day, I just blew off work. I spent the whole day drinking, and I went through like two full bottles of scotch. And I got in my car, and I thought I could drive.
Okay.
And I was driving, I was swerving, and they pulled me over. And I was as drunk as I'd probably ever been in my life. Right. They said, you want to take a sobriety test? And probably not a good thing. I laughed. I said, are you kidding? I can't even stand up.
Yeah.
So they arrested me. I was 5 blocks from my house.
Oh, man.
5 blocks from my house. They put me in the back of the car, and they could have turned right and gone down the main road towards the police station. They decided to go straight down past my house and take the next road. So I'm in the back of this police car. I'm not even scared. I don't even care anymore. I'm just done with life. I'm over. And I look, and they stopped at the stop sign right in front of my house, and I look over, and I could see in my house, I could see shadows moving like in the windows, because the bottom floor, it was a pretty big house with big windows. And I saw these shadows moving inside. And for a moment, I became as sober as I've ever been. I can't explain exactly what it was, but other than a feeling. And I said, Jones, it's all gone. it's all gone. You're done. There's nothing left. You have done all the damage you could do to those people in that house that love you and that you're supposed to love, and you're done. And I think that was at that moment when I said, I'm done.
Your epiphany phase?
It was an epiphany. Yeah. It was a moment of clarity. It was, but I couldn't even describe what it was like because it was so out of body for me.
Yeah.
You know, to kind of just float around.
It's like a spiritual, like God sent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Ebenezer Scrooge, and the final ghost came to me, right? And we got to the police station, and of course, you know, the drunkenness came back.
Of course, yeah.
Right, because it's still in your system.
They had to carry me into the police station. 2 cops carrying me into the police station, and I blew a super high number, and I got arrested. But that was the last day I drank.
Oh,
and it wasn't any kind of thing where it's just like, you know, maybe I should drink, maybe I shouldn't. I've had enough experiences where I've experimented. You know, I've had times when I tried to back off, or I thought, well, maybe if I put more ice in the scotch, I won't get as sick, and maybe this.
Just stay hydrated.
Yeah, just stay hydrated. But as I was sitting in that cell, as I was coming down, because I was in there for like 12 hours, but as I was coming down, I started remembering Christmas morning, the kids opening presents, and the police came in and arrested me and my wife because she was an active addict as well.
Right.
And they came in and arrested me and my wife in front of the kids on Christmas morning. You know, hey, Merry Christmas, Dad's going away.
Yeah.
Other Christmases, I can't remember. I don't know how my kids even care about Christmas anymore. Another Christmas, I came out, all the pictures on Christmas morning, there's this weird pattern on the side of my face. It was the pattern from the tile floor in the bathroom where I slept.
Oh my God.
And it was like all of our Christmas pictures. That's what I have.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
It's
great.
You know, the bottom line is I came into the program this time thinking a lot differently than I ever did before.
Yeah.
I started to realize that it's not about fighting some demon from outer space or from heaven or from hell or anywhere else. You know, it's about me changing me. You know, and I always said I would do anything for my kids. I got 2 beautiful kids, 3 total. One of them's ugly, but but I love him too. But I love him too. No, I love him too. He's all right.
Yeah. I remember you talk about your ugly son quite often.
I love him. He's a
I know
good
you
kid,
do.
but
I know you do.
you know, I just I'm not even sure what the point was I was trying to make there because I lost it.
Well, you said
ugly
that
one,
the reason you wanted to recover was for your kids.
Well, yeah.
That's what at least that was your
you were
north.
talking about like personal,
The motivation.
Yeah,
the motivation was your kids.
also.
I had to be better.
Yeah.
I had to be better because I did want to be a great dad.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think most people in addiction, not all, because sometimes you get into some real deep mental health issues where there is a violent tendency that overrides everything.
Right.
But I think most people with addictions and even some mental health disorders want to be a good person.
Right.
I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good dad. You know, I grew up watching, when I was little, I watched the Brady Bunch and said, that's what I want. And not just Marsha, but the whole, I wanted the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole numbers.
Yeah, but Marsha would have been fine.
I'll settle for Marsha.
Marsha.
Yeah.
But that's what I always wanted, and I think a lot of us have that kind of thing in us, that fantasy of, I want to be a good person. I want to be the guy that when you walk down the street, people say hi, and they're not afraid to talk to you.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I want my family, when there's something wrong, to call me and not be afraid to call me.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was different this time. I started to realize I would protect my kids from a bullet, but I would not protect them from me.
That's profound.
Wow. I got chills. I'm sorry. That's insane.
We all have people in our lives that we love, and we say, I would do anything for them. I would take a bullet for them.
Yeah.
You know, I would have done that. But what I won't do is protect them from me.
From yourself.
I won't protect them from my rage, from 5 minutes of boredom. You know, at the beginning of my recovery, could have taken me out. I will protect my kids from everything except for that 5 minutes of boredom. I mean, it's so surreal when I think about, you know, because when I started working steps and learning about me, I realized I have a profound love for my kids.
Yeah.
Right.
What I didn't have is any value for that love.
Interesting.
You know,
Could you break that down a little bit? What do you mean by that value?
The value. If I put a glass of scotch in one corner of a room and $1 million in the other corner of the room, and I ask somebody who's maybe got a past like mine, which one would you go for? In my active addiction, I would go for the scotch.
Well, okay.
Because I don't care about the $1 million. Yeah, it's got a lot. It's a lot of money, but I don't really value that. I value the feeling I get from the scotch.
Yeah, of course.
But then if I put my family over it, my family's worth a lot more. My family's worth 10, 20, 50 million. You give me $100 million, I would not harm a hair on any one of my family members' head.
Absolutely.
I put them in that corner. That's so much value there. Mm-hmm. How can I possibly still reach for that glass of scotch? The reason is because I do not live in that value. I love my kids, but I do not live in the value of that love. So it's like taking advantage or taking love for granted. Mm. So I'm thinking like, yeah, I love them, but this is for me. Instead of saying, I love them, and how blessed am I to be able to do that? Mm-hmm. And that should mean the world to me.
Yeah, making that sacrifice.
It's not but you know what? If you love somebody, it's not a sacrifice.
That's true.
100%.
If you love something,
It's the reward.
Yeah.
Where was the real reward? The real well, I can't say the word reward. The real prize.
The real prize.
We're
There we
change
go.
that up. The real prize is not in that glass of scotch. The real prize is in the love of my daughters and my son and my wife of the day, whichever one I'm married to at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm single now.
Yeah.
By choice of every woman I've ever met.
There you go.
Yeah,
but that's what it is. It's about value.
It is. And I think you can't impart what you don't possess, because
Thank you.
I too, as a mom went through addiction with my son. So I really relate and resonate with what you're saying, because like all I spewed was my brokenness towards my children, toward my child, and it's like, same thing. Like I love him, like I'll do anything. I love this kid so much. But when you put it into like that, where you're like, you have this and then you have this, and I constantly am going over here, and it's like.
That also speaks to the level of the power that addiction has over people, and why it's such an important thing to like advocate and talk about, because people don't realize how much addiction can take away from you. Because
Absolutely.
I'm sure, like you said, never at any point in your life you wanted to be that way. You didn't want to treat your kids that way. It was the disease of addiction.
100%, and it makes you hate yourself more.
It gives you it gives you that perspective in your mind that you're not doing wrong when you truly are.
And it's not exactly,
because you're so consumed with that selfish of dopamine, that level of dopamine. Just I gotta itch that dopamine. I gotta itch it, and you don't think about other things. It's just a natural thing.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, humans' biology were triggered by dopamine, so.
We do everything for dopamine.
You got to find it in positive ways. If you're not, then, it's just how it is.
Well, that's why we work so much here with wellness tools, because a wellness tool is never going to be something that deters your mental health, right? Because then it's not a wellness tool, is it, right? So how can we find things in our lives to become positive wellness tools, so we, in our recovery journeys, we can get to that point where we can see our family and see value in them. And moreover, when we can look at ourselves in the mirror and see value in that person as well, right? So
what was that process like for you? So like, because we know that recovery, the process of recovery is really that journey of self and self-discovery. And like, because obviously I know today how you show up as a parent, as an advocate, like, like all of these amazing things. So let's talk about like what that process looked like.
Well, the process, it didn't make sense to me at first. The only thing I knew was that my family deserved something better. That's how it started. And that I really wanted to see if I could be the good man that I wanted to be. I wanted to see if that was possible. Yeah. See, I was always that guy. I was always the contrary guy. I hated being drunk. That's why I didn't do drugs. Mostly alcohol. I did some drugs, but I never liked being out of control, but I always drank to prove that I don't have to get drunk. And I lost the battle every time.
Interesting.
So I wasn't like chasing, I want to get drunk, but I was like, can I actually succeed and be a good father? And what I see in my head, is that person really, does he exist? That's where I started. And what it soon became is I started to identify, it's like, okay, well, if I want them to accept me for this, I got to change this. And if I want them to forgive the violence, I've got to show them love and compassion. And it started to flip the script. And next thing you know, it's like one day I woke up and realized, I'm not doing it for them now. I'm doing it to make me better. And if I'm better, I can be the person I want to be. And that's how that all came about. But one thing I discovered right from the start of that second time is that I'm not here to fake it. I'm not here to just like accept things like you're powerless. And I'm not here to accept that.
Right.
I'm here to create my own path and to find joy in my life and to do those things. And by the way, nobody says you're powerless. If you look at the step, it says we were powerless, not we are powerless. We were powerless. We are not powerless now. And I'm not powerless anywhere in my life.
Absolutely.
I got the choice to make my days good or bad. I got the choice to look at things as being positive or negative, and that's all the power I need.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's you just saying that I feel empowered. You know, I
Yeah,
agree, I
absolutely.
totally agree because I preach the same thing. Like
Yeah.
we do have the power and ability,
Absolutely.
and like every day we get a set of decisions we get to make.
Yeah.
You know, and you can always choose to start over and make a new decision, and that's something to me that always brings hope. Because at any point in time, I could change the trajectory of my life, or I can continue where it's going, or I can make an enhancement. You know, we have that power.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, and people want to take that power away from themselves. They want to stop being victimized. We were doing that in our addictions. In our active addictions, we were victimized by our own desires, by Johnny Walker, Jim Beam, and Jack Daniel. All the J's were out to get us.
Yeah.
Okay? They were coming for us. But stop accepting that and start taking responsibility. I think most people fail at recovery, not because they think it won't work, but because they're afraid it might. Because what if it works? Now I got to go to work every day, pay bills. Did you know not all bills come on pink paper? I didn't know that, okay? I mean, I found out. It's like, but they're afraid of that. And I'm telling you, don't be afraid. Rejoice.
Yeah.
You know, find the joy. And that's what it became. As soon as I started looking inside of me, I said, Scott does not sit through boring lectures. Scott does not watch documentaries about the Galapagos Islands. Scott doesn't do that. Scott wants to watch Scream. Scott wants to laugh at Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. Scott wants to, So that's what I should give myself is that stuff. And I discovered my way to recovery, though I use the same tools as everybody else, I make sure each time I take a hammer to myself for a tool, I hit my funny bone first. And I have fun. And that has been the key to everything. I grew more in my first year of recovery this time than I did in the whole 12 years that I had before. You know, and now I'm coming up on 20. So
there you go. Congratulations.
Wow.
I'm sure you were way more intentional that second time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what do they say? You can only get better, like only the dying can. I knew that I was dying. I knew all that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't care about dying. What I really cared about was, am I never going to get to find out who I really am and what I'm really capable of? And in that, I'm finding joy. I find joy in cooking and music and art, in people, helping people, lectures and doing that stuff, owning my own business. And I just love it.
Yeah. I'm very curious to hear. You said that your kids are a big reason why you wanted to get into recovery, but I'm very curious to hear how your kids got involved in your recovery journey specifically.
Well, they didn't right away. There was some animosity there, which belonged there, and you know, I'll tell you a quick story if you don't mind.
Please do.
I lived in South Jersey, did a lot of TV work in South Jersey and Philadelphia. Huge sports guy. So I love the Eagles. Okay, if you're an Eagles fan out there, fine. If you're a Cowboys fan, turn the show off. We don't want you here. No, I'm kidding.
We don't take sides on South Florida Wellness Network.
We don't take sides.
Unless you're a Cowboys fan.
Even Cowboy fans can get sober. All right, so I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
So I was a huge Eagles fan, and one afternoon I'm sitting there and I'm watching the Eagles play. Donovan McNabb is there, and they're doing. And they did something monumentally stupid. Now, I got up and I yelled at the TV.
Right.
I've been sober about 1.5 years at this point. The second time, my real sobriety.
Right.
I jumped up. I started yelling at the TV. Son of a, you know, and I just went off. My daughter jumps up, grabs my arm, says, "No, Daddy, no," and starts crying.
Okay.
You know, and my youngest daughter. And she goes, "No, Daddy, no." And I look at her and I said, "Shut the F up." And I just, it was a reaction. I'm just like, shut up. I'm watching football.
Right.
And for the first time, I saw the pain that I'd caused.
Got it.
I had never truly considered it other than saying, yeah, I hurt my kids, but I never really knew what that hurt was. Then I looked in her eyes, and she was so upset. And I fell to my knees in front of her, and I said, "Cordy, why are you crying?" And she goes, "Every time you yell, somebody gets hurt or somebody leaves." And as much as I wanted to say, we're not talking about that, because I was doing that for the first 1.5 years. Up until this point, I was like, we don't talk about the old days. Scott, Dad's not like that anymore. This time I said, you know what? You're right. you're right. I did a lot of bad things. I was a horrible father, and it was never, ever, ever your fault. You know, and then we started talking about it. Now I'm crying, she's crying. Yeah. My son comes down the stairs, you know, teenage skater boy. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he's on the floor with us, and the three of us all cried. My oldest was off at Rutgers at the time, so we did that separately. Yeah. But I told them this was what changed my life. I told them, Dad did those things. It was not your fault. And anytime you want to talk about him, you have not only the right, you know, but you need to talk about it.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, and it goes back to your, sorry to cut you off. It goes back to your point that like that's why people are so, they don't want to get into that point of it's time to change, because they have to get to all those insanely hard conversations. Yeah. Because that's a tough conversation. It's way easier for you to be like, I'm changing now. You guys accept it. Don't bring back my past.
But then you just discredit.
You're invalidating everything that people went through.
Right.
Because you weren't the only one doing it.
When you got kids, they're holding on to that stuff. Yeah. Until you tell them it's not them, it's you. They assume it's
sometimes more than you.
They can't heal until you have that conversation. That's like exactly. What you did there is you allowed your children to heal. Yeah. You said, I'm going to hold the mirror up like the man that I need to be for these children, and that means acknowledging everything. When it goes unacknowledged, children will carry that in them.
Yeah, internalize
it. Yep. Yeah, so that's beautiful.
I'll share real quickly. There was a period of time when my parents, and I'm so happy that you said this, because this is such an important thing that a lot of parents don't realize. This is coming from someone who has parents who went through a separation at a time. And I specifically remember one of the biggest things that I was mad about is that my father never talked to me about it. I was so upset at him because he would never just tell me how he was feeling. I had to guess. And obviously when you're a teenager, your guess is he hates me, he doesn't want me in his life. But a couple years later, when we have that discussion finally, just like you're describing, I literally got chills when you said that. He said, it was never your fault. I still love you. I still care about you. This doesn't change anything. I embraced him, and I just started crying, and he started crying. And that was one of the first times I ever saw my father cry. My father cries, you know, every once in a while, but it's such an honor to see him in that way, because I know that he trusts me, and I know that I can do the same, and I know I can trust him too. And for a long time, it wasn't that way.
It's the greatest example of the difference between apologizing and making amends.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, if I'd said to my daughter, well, I'm sorry you feel like that, that's not anything. But when I was able to say, you know, and this was, you know, I was led to this. It didn't come out of my own head how it worked, but it happened. But I said, I own what I did to you. I did those things. That's what making amends is about. And so my life started to really change after that. My kids' lives started to change. I gave them carte blanche. Talk about whatever you want. So now we're out at dinner at Applebee's. They're like, hey, Dad, remember that time you drove through the garage without opening the door? Remember that? You know, I got people moving their plates, going to other tables, other people leaning in so they could hear more.
I have the same experience.
I ain't gonna lie, that's kind of how my family is now. We embrace dysfunction. It's like, yo, remember that we were all in the crack house? And
it's the same thing. I relate so much to you. It's the same thing I go through with my son.
I used to have it's funny, when my mom was going through her stuff, I was there, and obviously I didn't partake in it, but it was funny. I lived in a little tiny, at the time I called it the Harry Potter room, because my room was literally underneath like a little staircase in a little closet, like the tiniest room that my mom could kind of afford at the time. So like every time I think back of those moments when my mom was struggling, I literally think of Harry Potter, and I think of my little tiny room and going in the closet, and it's just funny how, like, going back to what you're saying, people store traumas and they store things, and like I'm fortunate enough to, like, for me, I didn't think of it like, oh, my mom's going through stuff. I was just such an oblivious kid that I was just doing my own thing. I didn't really care, and now it's come to a point in my life where I'm looking at these things and like, wow, these things were all happening to me. Yeah. And still, fortunately, I don't take it too negatively. I just take it as for what it is, and I appreciate my mom's change.
And let me just say that it's not necessarily an outlier. You know, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of people who are young, and they go through their own struggles of recovery, or their parents are going through a lot of struggles. And it's not necessarily uncommon to see young people kind of become kind of block that.
Yeah,
you know, it's
repress
very
your,
interesting.
You repress your emotions subconsciously.
Yeah,
it's not
like,
that you don't want to, like you're saying.
And you ask him like, how does that make you feel? Like, I don't know, I don't care.
Yeah.
And
it's a
like,
defense mechanism to keep yourself from breaking down or becoming emotional.
Honestly,
about
for
things.
me, it's one of the most like interesting places to work at, because it's for me as a peer specialist, it becomes to the point of, well, how can I naturally allow this conversation to happen where this person feels inclined to talk to me about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I need to find ways to show them that I'm here to be a supportive person, right?
Yeah.
So literally, like I'm thinking specifically about one participant that I work with, where it took me months just to get one time where he asks me a question for once, you know.
Right.
And like I'll never forget it. We were playing a board game while we were in our session, and he goes, "Hey Christian, I have a question. What did you what did he say? He said, what were your thoughts about me when you first met me?" And I was like, "Oh, here it is. Here's the moment I've been waiting for. Okay, I thought you were somebody who went through something, and I saw somebody that has a lot of potential to grow and become a better person." And he went, "Oh, okay." And we kept playing. And I know for a fact that conversation, whenever we had it, he went on the inside, he went, "Huh, never thought of it that way." And then he just kept going. And I know that's going to come back one day. So it's such an interesting thing to work with young people and see that reaction is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
But moving on.
I just want to say,
please do.
That thing with my daughter and my son, and then with my older daughter as well later. That's why we have a relationship today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not about covering up. It's not about let's not talk about it.
Exactly.
And I became obsessed with my past after that, to say, wow, you know, what else do I have to resolve here?
Mm-hmm.
And not forget. If you forget your past, you're going to relive it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you forget to remember, you're doomed to relive. That's what they say,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I got to remember my past so I can remember the lessons that I learned from it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I've got to reconcile that with myself and come to terms with it. And one of the things I discovered is that I've met people who have never had a problem in their life. You know, smooth sailing, you know, went to high school, played football, married the cheerleader, became a CPA, worked for H&R Block, you know, whatever. First of all, these people bore the hell out of me.
Yeah, same here, man. I could not agree with you more.
Where is their learning lessons from? Where has their strength come from?
Right.
Steel hardens steel. I mean, we've got to sharpen steel. We've got to start looking at our past, our addicted pasts and our past before recovery, as the basis, the granite on which we're going to build our castle.
Absolutely.
You know, if you've got no past and no issues, it's like building a castle on the sand. It's going to sink. It's got no strength to it. But because we went through the hard stuff, we can rock and roll with the rest of the world better than anybody else. We can find joy where there isn't any joy. We can find gratitude where there isn't any gratitude. We can find love where there isn't any love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's because we've gone through the past we went through.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hide from it.
Yeah.
Face it.
Yeah.
That's a great point that you make. It's because like I've always said that, you know, like adversity builds strength, and the more you go through stuff, let's say you're born with a silver spoon, it's not gonna you're not gonna appreciate it as much as if you've lived your whole life in the gutter and then you work yourself up to that, obviously. So no, I completely understand that, and
Having a silver spoon is great until somebody serves you with
Exactly.
salad. Until they serve you with salad.
Yeah,
Then you're
you're
screwed.
like,
You gotta learn how to eat with your hands.
Yeah. I'm very curious.
Yeah.
One of the things that how do I say this? I guess the way I want to say this is I remember very vividly when we first got to know each other in terms of like the training, and I got to talk to you a couple times. One of the things that you are very into is art and music. And I definitely want to hear your perspective on that a little bit, because I've seen your art, and I mean, I don't want to toot your horn too much, but like, it's really cool. Like,
So you want to buy something?
maybe. But honestly, I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about this question. How do you utilize art and music in your recovery journey today?
Simple. I unlocked what was inside of me. I keep saying this. You got to find joy. You got to find happiness and stuff. And that's that inward journey to find things that we used to sit around and say, boy, one day I'd really like to learn how to play piano.
Yeah.
And it's in us. And once we explore that, now do that. Answer that. I used to love going out to restaurants, and I used to say, boy, I wonder if I can make this. And then I said, you know what? Why don't I do that? And I started cooking, and now it's one of my loves. It's cooking and being a chef and doing those things. Art was much the same way, and music the same way. It's like, I love music. I love going to concerts. I'm still a concert freak. I love concerts. But I always, when I'm sitting there, at one point during the concert, we all do this. We imagine ourselves up there, right?
Yeah.
We all do that.
Yep,
for sure.
absolutely.
You know,
Like on the stage?
I do it before the concert.
like singing or playing
Yeah.
guitar. You know, I imagine I'm, you know, even like the untalented one in the corner with the tambourine. Okay, you know, they always have one of
Don't
those.
tell
too.
that to Stevie Nicks. How dare you?
No, Stevie's the one exception. Stevie is the one exception.
Yeah, great voice.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Her, it was like Stevie Nicks, Valerie Bertinelli
There
on
you
my
go.
wall. That
Yeah.
was my job. But anyway, but these things come into play because these are things that I've wanted to try, and I unlocked it, and I found the joy in it. Stop sitting around. People make bucket lists.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Well, here's things I want to do before I die. Well, why don't you go do one of them today? Don't worry about writing everything down. Go do what you can do today. You know, I mean, if you want to jump out of an airplane, go do it. There's plenty of airplanes.
Yeah, make sure you grab a
Yeah,
parachute.
make sure you tell them you're going to do it because they get upset if you just kind of open the door and step out, right?
Yeah, I think
That's true.
what I love what you're saying, because it's like moving from the mindset of like, you know, I want to do these things to I am doing these things. And it's like, that's the jump. And I even, whether you're in recovery or not, I feel like so many people struggle in this complacency of just like,
Yeah.
I make this huge long list of the things that I want to do, or I aspire, or I kind of talk about these things. I'm like, just do it. Like, take the next step to
It goes to
plan
that
it.
point I always say all the time, that life is extremely simple, but it's also difficult. Because we make life so much more complex than it is. Like you're saying, if you want to go jump out of a plane, you know?
Yeah.
No one's stopping you. But the people, what if this happens? And what if this happens? Should I plan this date? We get in our brains about so many things, and that's why, you know, people stop themselves from doing things.
Let me ask you, I mean, so basically all of that stuff, it serves me because it's the best part of me. Find the things that are part of you. Don't take up painting unless you want to paint.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't take up guitar unless you want to play guitar. Your fingers will be bleeding. You'll be cursing at me. Don't do it.
Exactly.
Find what lights you up, you know, and do those things. This is all, you know, this is all part of the plan.
It is. Yeah.
It's about finding and becoming the best me I could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing these things and I'm painting and I'm singing and I'm doing those things, it's just me expressing who I am.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that creative part, the fun part, is the first thing we bury in active addiction.
Yeah.
You know why? Because alcohol and drugs don't want any active competition. I don't want you thinking that it's more fun to play with your kids than it is to sit drunk in the corner.
Wow. Yeah, that's so
You
true.
know? So that's why we've got to defend our joy, defend our fun stuff, and create more if you don't have enough. There's not enough time in a day to do everything I want to do.
Yeah.
I agree.
I feel the same way. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that's so cool, too, to be able to sit around and just talk openly with people about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and you guys are going to say something I'm going to walk away with. I'm going to say something you guys are going to walk away with, you know, but it's just being out there and living life, man.
This is something that's actually missed a lot too, and for a lot of people, sitting down and having conversations about a lot of different topics and being able to enjoy your perspective and his perspective while also having mine and not having to step over yours. I have friends, obviously.
Apparently your perspective didn't come in today.
Yeah.
That's all
Sorry.
right. I'm good. I'm good. Listen, I love me today. So.
Because we all have friend groups, right?
Yeah.
But our friend groups are like us.
Yeah.
Our friends are like us.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to them, but they're going to have thoughts like us.
Yeah.
So it's important for you to sit with other people that aren't like you to learn about other
I'll
people.
I'll never forget. I'm actively involved in church work, and when I was first starting, I remember one of the first things that I was trying to do is I didn't want to get in trouble because I don't. How do I say this in a way I don't get in trouble? I don't necessarily believe in all the traditions and all the stuff that church stands for, right? And when you become a leader, it's really hard to walk that line because you want to be a mentor, you want to be a role model, but at the same time, if it's not something you truly believe is real or true, then it can be a weird balance, right? So one of those things that I remember growing up that I had I forgot what we were talking about. I think we were talking about love and what that means. And I specifically remember I let them know, I have an atheist friend. And the first reaction of one of the students was, I thought you weren't allowed to do that. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, yeah, because like my parents taught me that you should only be friends with people who are Christians. And I went, how are you going to grow if you don't know what they believe, right? And it turned into a situation where I was able to inspire them to, if you aren't solid in what you believe in, how are you going to defend what you believe in, right? So why aren't you trying to talk to other people who don't agree with you, right? To learn why they believe what they want to believe, and then it strengthens what you want to believe, right? So it really molded my mentality into, well, kind of what we're talking about right now. If we don't put ourselves out there to hear different perspectives and to hear people that we may not agree with, what are we doing in our lives? We're enclosing ourselves, right? When there's so much information out there, and how are we showing people kindness if that's the lifestyle that we're living?
Exactly.
Now, I'm gonna be kind to you, Michael, because you and I are whatever, our buddies. But I'm not gonna show kindness to Kayla because she disagrees with my thoughts about a specific subject.
I knew you guys didn't like me.
Right?
That's
exactly.
Really, welcome to the I Hate Kayla show.
But there are a lot of people that believe that way.
Right.
There's elitists in every group.
And think about recovery. Think about in the own community of recovery. We see people who believe in 12-step and people who don't like 12-step. We see people that believe in medicinal stuff and don't believe in medicinal stuff. And it becomes this point of contention, right? Yeah. That's why we even talk about, like, we're open to multiple pathways of recovery, because we want people to feel accepted and loved in their recovery
because there
journeys.
are multiple pathways.
Because there are multiple pathways, right?
Everyone is unique in their design, and they were created uniquely in who they are, their gifts, their talents, their strengths, their interests, and all of these things. And I think that diversity is where true, like richness lives, is in in that space.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, diversity is the best. You get a bunch of people that all think the same way. 10 people, they all think the same way. Put them in a room. They're going to come out with maybe one half-assed idea, right? You put 10 people in a room that are from different walks of life, different beliefs, different ideas, diversity. You're going to come out with a cacophony of great ideas, all this stuff.
And people are going to grow from each other.
People grow, just like you said.
Learn,
you grow from that. Yeah. But, everybody wants this smooth line, this beautiful, I'm going to get sober. Everything's going to be like this. We're going to be some... I've been to Disney. You guys been to Disney?
Of course, yeah.
There's no lines at the monorail.
That's true.
Nobody stands in line for 2 hours so they can take a monorail, which is smooth and easy. Where does everybody stand in line?
On the roller coasters.
They want the roller coaster.
Up and down, baby.
They want to be twisted up and down, scared a little bit,
through
laugh a little
ups
bit.
And downs.
I mean, you get going so fast, you're doing a twirl, you even pee a little bit.
That's
You're just so excited. You're so excited.
I mean, if someone told you this right now, hey, you can go through 60 years of life and it's just going to be very chill, or you can go through 60 years of life and I'll give you super good ups and super good downs. What would you choose?
Exactly.
And take the second option every time over.
We wait for the roller coaster. Why not embrace that in our lives? When things get crazy, that's when we are at our best. Okay? When things get hard, that's when we see how strong our spirit is and how strong our beliefs are. When things go easy, that's when we realize how much are we willing to give of ourselves to others.
Exactly.
Because, there's so many opportunities. Every twist and turn gives you an opportunity. Every twist and turn has an option for joy attached to it. Even the bad stuff. When my grandfather passed away, now my mother, the one I told you about who got sober back, she's now got 44 years in recovery.
That's awesome.
All right. My mother and I stood at my grandfather's funeral, her father's funeral, and people started crying, and then her and I started chuckling. And we started talking about all the great things that happened. At the end, he had something called essential tremors where he shook. And the coolest thing was getting a hug from him because it was like...
vibrating.
It's like a massage chair. You get a free massage. Just give Grandpa a hug. And we talked about it, and we started laughing. Next thing, we were all laughing, and we realized, the standard human reaction. Why'd you do this to me? Well, you're not the one in the coffin. Nothing happened to you. Why don't you show some joy to celebrate their life? And that's what we did.
Exactly.
Joy belongs everywhere, guys. And
agreed.
Anybody who tells you, I had a father-in-law used to tell me, one of my father-in-laws, life is pain. I'm like, well, that sucks. That sucks.
Yeah.
you find a way to embrace, live your life the way you want to live it, live in recovery. But recovery can't just be what you read out of a book or what you saw in a meeting. Recovery has to be what you found in you.
Yes.
And embrace that and bring it to the surface and show it off. And, dance like nobody's watching, sing in the shower, sing in your car. Do those things and create a great life. At the end of the day, it's just up to us. It's up to us whether we want to spread joy or not spread joy.
Absolutely.
And I've got a mission. I want to touch the whole planet somehow, some way, and someday I'll do it. I don't know how yet. In fact, matter of fact, I found out in some states just touching people you can get in trouble for.
Yeah, you can't.
So I want to make sure I don't do that.
Yeah, you can't do it that way.
But I think it's the ripple effect, though, because you are touching the planet, because and we're going to kind of plug a little bit of what Scott does, but the impact that you have on people and then where they go. And that's what I always think is like, we have such an opportunity every single day, and it's right in front of us. It's every person that we come across. We have an opportunity to plant a seed, leave an impact, create a ripple effect that does actually impact the world.
Right.
Scott, look at this situation right now. Like, the whole reason you're here is because you left an impact in us here at South Florida Wellness
That we
Network.
actually wanted to bring
that
you
we
on
were
the
like,
podcast. 'Cause we were
oh
like,
my God,
you
how
know
can we
what?
get this man on the podcast? Because that's really what recovery can be. When you get to a point where you're in a space where you feel that you've recovered and you've gotten a lot of growth, now it's time to share that story, right? That's why we did this series right here. Kayla came up with this idea, and when she told me this idea, I was like, yes, we need to do this. My story matters. How can we share our stories to inspire people that recovery is possible, right? And I would just want to personally thank you, because despite our busy schedules, despite everything, you said, you know what? Yes, I'm going to be there. And I cannot thank you enough. Yeah. Really, really thank you, brother.
I couldn't be more proud to be with you guys. And that's the coolest thing, is what recovery brings together in this world. And that we can make a change. Put the cell phone down, talk to people once in a while.
Absolutely.
Start to be kinder and nicer in your communities. When Bill W. and Dr. Bob put this together, they weren't trying to heal just the addicts and the alcoholics. They were trying to heal communities and families and everything. And they said, we have a responsibility not to just to give back to other alcoholics, to give back to everyone.
Yep.
Right.
All those affected.
What a great joy, though, it is to be able to influence somebody. It's the rule of 32. I'm going to 32 people. If I went out and I helped 32 people in some way, said something nice, did a kindness for 32 people. Now, if each one of those 32 people did a kindness for 32 other people, and it's not on a timeline. It could take a month. So 32, then they each do 32, and then it goes out. And if you do that 32 times, you will have covered the entire planet. Every human being will have been touched with kindness. The formula's not complicated, people. Go out and make a difference. Find your joy, then share your joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, every single person who stayed to listen to this awesome episode. If you are one of our awesome audio listeners, we see you, we love you, and we thank you for listening. Please make sure to give that 5-star rating if you can. It helps boost the popularity of the podcast, and it helps us reach more places. And if you're awesome viewers at YouTube, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast wherever you can, so we can keep inviting more awesome guests like Scott to come and share their stories and talk about different subjects about recovery that are super, super important. Yes. We hope you've been enjoying the content we've been doing so far, and we got a lot ahead. So we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.